we're not trying to rip you off or take too much money. It's just custom building is not a linear process, especially in the renovation game. It's like things chop and change all the time. Your schedule might not go exactly as you need because something else crops up that you have to attend to that. So it's taking all that into account and explaining the reasons why you have to map it out that particular way.
Welcome listeners to another episode of the Build Insight podcast. If you recall, a few weeks ago we had a builders panel chat with Zak, James and Luke. We recorded 2 parts and the chat was that good that we decided we'll release a 3rd part. So have a listen for some more builders insights.
I guess carrying on the topic then of your internal team, trying to find those team members to join on your team and other trades out there as well. It's just some pretty interesting stuff in the industry at the moment with huge labour and skill shortages as well. What are you still experiencing that yourselves, or what are you doing to overcome these issues?
I think for us, probably the one thing we've struggled with over the last few years is finding the good young kids that are coming through. We've been through a few different apprentices first year apprentices over the last couple of years. We've actually recently signed up an adult apprentice, and then we're about to sign up another adult apprentice as well. So it's finding those kids that have that real drive and that want. I think there's so much opportunity, and for young kids these days, I think trying to actually nail down someone who, because I guess carpentry and construction is hard. It's not easy work. There's days that are really tough on site. So it's finding kids that have that real drive.
Before we move on from you, James, you just touched on you're hiring at a mature age and you're about to hire another one as well. We've actually got 2 mature age apprentices in-house ourselves. I guess it's a tricky one because we found when we hired the first one, we trialled a couple of juniors, and we just found that the maturity level of the mature age, it's a bit of a no-brainer. So you really want to take on the more experienced people, but at the same time, how do you navigate on? You don't want to just write off all the young kids coming through because they still need that opportunity. I don't know, anyone got any input on that?
I can see where you're coming from. It's definitely tricky because I guess the kids are the future of the industry. Yeah. So we have to be able to find kids that are interested in the trades. Yeah, I can't tell you here how to solve it, but yeah.
I feel like just kids are just maturing later. Like you look at, I think most people would say this, every generation would say it, but you look at the generation coming through. I started my apprenticeship straight out of high school, and I have my own conceptual idea of how I was at that point. And you look at the kids finishing high school now, and there's just a level of maturity that's not there. I'm not saying this, I don't want to blanket everyone. I'm sure there's guys out there who aren't this way, but that's certainly been our experience. The best apprentices we've had have been adult apprentices. They've just got that bit of life experience, their head's a bit more secure on their shoulders, that sort of stuff. And it's interesting about the carpentry thing. Obviously, like a lot of us, I'm not sure about you guys actually, but we all have some sort of in-house team of on-site guys for carpenters. But for us, we do more projects than we can handle just in-house. So we subcontract out to chippies for the framing packages and things like that. And that's the biggest problem we're finding at the moment, is finding good contract carpenters. And I've come to the conclusion that if you're a really good carpenter, you become a builder. Yeah. So then you just leave the industry, right? And you just try. You don't leave the industry. You transition to
leave the tool belt.
You take the tool belt off. There are a few really good chippies in Adelaide who I know of. They're really hard to get hold of. Like they're on that scoring system. Like they're a 10 out of 10 for a lot of stuff. But just in terms of scheduling and letting you down, like it happens a lot. Finding good chippies is really difficult. And the other thing I was going to mention just around. So obviously there's that whole problem with what you just mentioned about hiring young guys and training them up. That's not happening as much. So therefore, the pool of skilled trades, especially chippies, is reducing.
Yeah.
Not only that, Australia's got these massive infrastructure projects happening all around Australia, like the federal government, and they've got it's some massive number, like billions and billions of dollars of these big projects happening around the country, and they've got this FIFO carrot dangling, right? And so the tilers and the plumbers and all these other trades who are the employees of the businesses that we subcontract to, their team are just like, well, I'm earning 100 grand on the tools with you, but I can earn 150 and work 6 months. So see ya. So then they go. So it's obviously not just us directly with our direct team. It's an extension of that, like our plumbers and tilers and whatnot. they've got a small team of 2 or 3 guys who we need on our sites as well, and they're struggling to find guys to come through and work for them. So it's a tough one to solve.
We see it all the time. It goes back to attitude. We just had a super impressive young woman that we had on our podcast recently, Clea, who's a 4th-year female carpentry apprentice, and her attitude, and she was just like beaming, like enthusiasm. And I actually saw just yesterday, coming to Adelaide, after our podcast, she'd found an old photo with her dad on site as a 4 or 5-year-old kid. He's standing a little wall up and she's there holding it. She's like, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I suppose people leaving the industry chasing money, we as a business and what we do with custom homes, all of our trades, it's like they're passionate about what they're doing. And when they get in and they feel a part of that, we all want to make money. But I think you can pick pretty quick the ones who aren't passionate about what they're doing and they're just chasing a paycheck. But I think that it's all the attitude, isn't it? You just got to keep persisting. You're going to go through maybe 10 people, Luke, and find one good one sometimes.
Well, I think probably up where we are, like a lot of the apprentices that we have all come through, I've trialled them as work experience kids, as from a year 10 level, and I wonder even through the schooling phase, whether probably no different to when I left school as well. It was all driven around ATAR score or whatever they call it.
Uni.
Go to trying to get to uni. But the fact is, you go to uni, you go into debt straight away pretty well. But even I didn't even realise either that the apprentice program too, I was only talking to our 3rd year the other day, and he took out a loan to help him get through his apprenticeship because of the lower pay rate. And I'm like, but you'd still be living at home with mum and dad, so why do you need that extra? But he said in hindsight he would have never have done it, but the fact is, so he's gone into a bit of debt himself as well. But it's like, why? I was no different as a boilermaid, getting $4.80 or something an hour, and you just had to. I was probably nearly saving more money back then than what you do now. But at the same time, it's you got to do your time to get to a point where you can actually, whether you want to go out and be a subby or whatever, to start to nearly get paid probably what you want to get paid, but whether they want to progress quicker than that and not do the 4 years to get to that sort of level, because you've got to put in the hard work. Like, it's been a hot summer here in SA. Like, it's good to be outside and that sort of stuff, but it's hard work, and I think they just got to. And we've got some good kids working for us, but I've probably had another 3 emails probably since January, I reckon, of young kids wanting a carpentry apprenticeship. One still at school, just wanting to do a school base. And we're just like, we go through like a group training scheme to put ours on. We don't employ them directly. And I said, here's their number. I'm sure they'll have other builders out there that are looking for carpentry apprentices and stuff too. But also, have we then got the tradesmen there to teach them as well? And I think that's the thing too. That's probably has to be driven from government. And I reckon locally here in SA, there's a trade up type of program I'm seeing advertised a bit, which they're trying to push to get more trades into the industry. But yeah, I think it's across the board, but it's just trying to find the ones that you can yourself. I don't know.
A couple of things there. One, it's so important for businesses like us to have a good culture to help retain people and show them the future of how they can progress as a career. That's the first. Obviously, provide a fun thing for me. Fun for me is a real value of mine. If you're not having fun, what are you doing, right? You got to provide a fun workplace so that everyone's enjoying it, and then you get that retention. The other thing as well is obviously we're on this path of the pool of skilled trades is dropping and everyone's going away to these FIFO projects and everything like that. It's pretty clear. You can see it. So that's creating a massive opportunity for guys who are hungry and willing to work. I don't know. We all see the prices we get through from our trades. They're making good money. And if you can educate the youth on, hey, don't go to uni, go into debt for 4 or 5 years, and then probably the stats will tell you they're probably not even going to get a job in the field that they're studying in. Go and get a trade, put in 4 or 5 years of hard work, and then if you start your own subcontracting business and you're good, you will kill it. You will do so well. And obviously they build the passion and they learn to love the industry because it's an amazing industry. Yeah,
making trades more attractive. You're dead right. And I actually had a thought last year. We're big on trying to bring in, we've got a new school-based apprentice that we've taken on. We've had one last year. Literally had a call from a kid yesterday as well for another one. But Is there a strategy there that we can open up our building sites to high schools, or bring in young kids at that early high school age to say, hey, this is what we do, this is what we build. Here's our tiler here or our plumber here driving their brand new Hilux, and they can say, I want to be like that, and attract it more. We've gone through generations. Funny story, 5 of my best mates, we all went to a private school. My old man likes taking the piss a little bit out of everybody, and I remember him walking in end of year 12 and he's, look at you blokes, we all paid all these fees, and here's a chippy, 2 Sparkies, a fireman and a diesel mechanic who were in the mix, and one of the other guys who passed away was a chippy as well. It took the light side out of it. But a girl we went to school with back then said, I will be more successful than you guys, I'm going to uni. And by the time we were 23, 24, 25, we were all buying our houses, and uni course had just finished. So I think there's a real way that we can open up more to show young kids, hey, this is what it's actually about. It's not all bad. It's hard work, but this is what you can do for yourself by the time you're 22 and qualified.
And we all know how fun it is on site, right? When you're got the bag on and you're hanging out with your mates and just getting all the work done. Like, if you can just give someone a glimpse of what we'll definitely get more guys involved.
Yeah.
I think that early education going through school as well, I don't think it really matters whether you finish year 12, you go to uni, you get all these qualifications. If you don't have the drive to actually want to do well in life anyway, it's not going to mean anything. Like, I'll openly say, I didn't do year 12, I finished year 11. I'm not encouraging kids out there to not finish high school. Please do if you feel need fit. But I got to a point, I'd achieved everything that I needed to get into my trade, and there was no point in me being there. So I found a job and moved on.
Yeah. But I think that's the beauty of a school-based apprenticeship. Like, every apprentice that we have has gone through a school-based. They've started in year 10 or 11 as a school-based, but they've still been able to get their SAE certificate at the end of it as well. Like, year 12, really, they have days off to go to their swimming carnival and sports day, and then the rest of the time they're out on site with us. So really, we nearly have a full-timer when they're finishing year 12. They get their SAEs and they're already 2 or 3 years really into a trade, and so another 12 or 18 months and they're really qualified. The interesting thing is, when you talk about the enjoyment you can get from being on site, my lad Ollie, he's 15, and I thought over the break that we had with Christmas, I said, you should really be, instead of sitting around here on the couch during this period, come out and give us a hand and make a few bucks as well. And he's at that age where we're encouraging him to look around for a bit of a part-time job. But through that time, I said, I'm not just going to send him there and let the leading hand look after him. I said, that's a bit rough for the boys to be looking after the boss's son. But I said, come out with us. And now he's a sort of kid, as he's grown up, to not be an outdoorsy, hands-on builder kid. He wants to do stuff. He loves cooking and food and all that sort of thing. So I think that's where he'll end up going. But he came out on site and spent a few days with us putting the floor system together, and just gave him a tech gun and some screws. Just go ahead and screw all these brackets off. So he did that. He loved the little bit of money that he actually got, and straight away went out and bought a TV, right? Put it in his room. But he goes, you know what, Dad? I'm not going to actually do that again, because now I've got no money left in my account. I said, that's good. But then came back after January then. We went back out, we started putting trusses up, and he goes, I actually really enjoyed putting the trusses up because I could actually see a little bit more of what we're doing now. And he goes, I'm putting that money into that account, and he didn't spend any of it. So very quickly he learned, if you spend it, you're actually not going to have it either. But there is enjoyment in the industry for a kid who isn't probably going to be doing that eventually. But even the apprentices, I said, there's huge opportunity here for you. You do this by the time you're 30, late 20s, you could be absolutely smashing it. And so put the time in now, learn as much as you can, but the outcome that you'll get, I said, tradies are hard to get, so you're going to be sought after in 8 or 9 years. Put the work in now and you'll get the rewards later on.
Yeah, do we need to be looking even younger than what we're looking at, I guess, early teens, late teens, like you were talking about the female apprentice that you had on the show recently, and she was, 4 or 5, and she was obsessed from that age. I know my son, he's obsessed with building, loves it. He's out the back hammering. I used to see that many nails that I've got in my pavers out the back. There's nails in dirt, there's screws. He wants to cut holes in the cubby house and put a second story on it and do this. He's 5, but every day, Dad, get your tools out, let's do stuff. And he just obviously doesn't quite understand how much goes into it. But do we need to, like you said, getting kids out to work site? Why can't we get kids that are like 6, 7 and 8 to just do a little tour and go, oh, how cool is this? Seeing machinery, excavators and skid steers and all that. I think kids love that stuff.
I love that idea. That's heaps cool.
So I don't know, do we have to go that early or like that far down the track to be thinking 15 to 20 years rather than just going, okay, what's like right now? Yes, we need to obviously solve that as well. But
it is hard because I know, looking back to when I was finishing up school and that, I hit year 12 and I was from a family of building, loved things with architecture and grew up on property, so it was always outdoorsy. Actually, my schooling, I was setting up to go study to be a vet. It wasn't until I hit like year 12 chemistry and that, I'm like, oh, I hate that. I'm not doing this in university. And I went back and jumped in with a builder for a couple of weeks over holidays. I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. But for me, I was great on the tools, love what you can accomplish on the tools. But I started, my goal straight out of the gate was I want to be a builder. And as you said, you're going to lose people, but you've got to grow them. So you might have a great apprentice. I've seen over time, like 3rd and 4th year apprentices not finish their apprenticeship, and you're like, just finish your time. You can always go back to that. You can go and chase other careers, and if it's not what you want to do. But I think we need to, glorify trades a bit more and get that out there. It's not all bad.
I need to jump in here for a minute, guys, to thank our sponsors, Backman Builders and Calorie Building. Without the support of these businesses, the Build Insight podcast wouldn't be possible. Take a moment to go and show some support for them so they can continue to support us, bringing you the Build Insight podcast.
One thing as well, as employers, we're a little bit at fault with this, and just hear me out, because you've got you hire the apprentice, right, and he's a bit slow, and you got to teach them common sense and whatever, and so then they grow through the ranks and they get signed off. Now they're a tradesman, and then they're a couple of years out of their trade and they've been working here for 5 or 6 years, right? What do we all think of that guy? We still think he's the apprentice, right? And so the trades on site who are the tradesmen, and us as the employers, we really have to let people grow in our own mind, because one of the things I say to people a lot is sometimes change, like you actually need to move on to grow, because like your first sort of perception of someone when they come in as an apprentice is they're an apprentice. They don't know how to do anything, right? Then they grow way beyond your expectation, and they're doing all these amazing things. But and they've grown in your mind, but it hasn't grown as much as where they're at. So you hold them back subconsciously. We do it. That's what humans do, right? So then when that person goes, I'm sick of this, I'm moving on, and then he moves on to the next business, right? And then the next business owner gets introduced to him, and boom, he's a 5th year chippy who knows exactly what he's doing. So then there's a new benchmark there, and then off he goes again, right? This concept applies in so many different areas of your life, right? I don't know how many of us have the friends we had in school, right? You were a certain person in school, and those friends see you that way, and you move on from them because it allows you to grow, because it's just human nature, right? The challenge we have as employers, if we're going to try to find someone at that grassroots level where they're a first year 18-year-old kid and they progress and they're really good, we have to be able to let them grow and give them more responsibility and allow them to move through the ranks. Because it's discouraging for them when their trades who are supervising them and the boss who's paying them is holding them back because they still think they're a 2nd year apprentice when really they're actually quite capable.
All right, that's a very interesting topic there. I think we'll definitely like a complete change of topic. One last little one before we wrap this up, because otherwise we'll be here all day, I reckon, fellas. Understanding financing of building projects. What words of encouragement can you offer to anyone listening, or how do you manage it yourself? Obviously, there's always that bit of a battle of if a client is borrowing money, banks will generally come back and they'll tell you how you can space out your progress payments and everything that you've got to comply with. What are you doing, or how are you then creating that conversation early with your clients if they are financing a project rather than cash funded?
Yeah, I think I've been in that same experience where the banks push back, and I probably didn't have the experience at that stage to push back. Now I do, so it's having the conversations with the client earlier on and saying, look, this is, and giving them a draft version of your contract and your payment schedule, and saying, you essentially, my contract is with you, you need to find a lender that will meet these terms, and the benefit of it is your project will be I guess, positively the cash flow will be positive. We're not trying to rip you off or take too much money. It's just custom building is not a linear process, especially especially in the renovation game. It's like things chop and change all the time. Your schedule might not go exactly as you need because something else crops up that you have to attend to that. So it's taking all that into account and explaining the reasons why you have to map it out that particular way.
My experience in the reno space is, and some of our renos are 500, 700, over $1 million, so they're high values. And so when you put together a contract and you give it to the client, they give it to their bank, they might not necessarily read the contract properly. They think that they're building a new home and they go, oh, the new home schedule is this, why doesn't it match? So then they push back on me and the client goes, oh, the bank, my mortgage broker's rejected it, or the bank's rejected it. And it's probably just more in my nature. I probably didn't have the experience, but I was like, nah, give him my number, tell him to call me. So I jumped on the phone with him, and I remember the mortgage broker rang me, and she's like, yep, no, the bank's not going to accept it. The bank will accept it because the bank thinks this is a new home, don't they? Oh, yeah, it is. No, it's not a new home. It's just an expensive reno. It's not a new home. Like, the most important, though, let's just all get on the same page here, right? We all agree that we don't want me to go bankrupt, yes? That's bad for everyone, yep? Good. Yep. Okay, cool. I want to build this with the client's money, not my money. The only way I can do that is to make sure that I have enough money in my bank before I need to pay my bills. 101, right? Don't be insolvent. We can all agree with that. Yep, cool. Okay. When I do a reno, I have significant costs of pre-ordering windows because they're ready to go. I have significant costs in deposits for trades, demolition costs. So I'm going to incur all this cost and I haven't poured a slab yet. So you want me to wait till I pour a slab? No, it's not going to happen. You either need to accept it or you need to find another builder. Yeah. Boom, they signed it.
Yeah.
That's really important to understand. The builder is not the bank.
Correct.
The liability that you've got between progress payments, if it's not, and if you don't plan it out that way as well in that early stage of however you've staged the draws out, if you're not forward thinking, okay, that trade's going to bill me for that, I need to pre-purchase that to be able to cover it when I can bill this invoice.
Yep.
If you haven't planned that out, my God, how fucking terrifying is that?
Yeah. Well, there's no standard schedule for the jobs that we do. Like, we literally look down, this is pre-contract, we will build a full detailed building schedule in our project management software, and we'll look at it and we'll map out every 3 to 4 weeks. What are the major stages happening? What are our costs of those stage? How many progress payments do we need? And really, it's about cash flow. So we don't just want 5 massive payments. Sometimes I go and I've got one job with 18 payments, and I'm trying to stagger them out. And I've explained to the client, I don't want too much of your money, and you don't want to overpay too early. So this is the safest way for us to manage the cash flow on this job. It's a win for everyone. Now, your bank's not going to like it, but we just need to tell them that this is the way it's going to work.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, some of the emails that we get back when whether it's a broker and then they're getting the email pushed back to us, and it says that the builder's progress stages aren't industry standard. And I'm like, we use a HIA contracts, and I said our industry body and their legal department have put together this contract, so it is
in 1965 or something, by the way.
Yeah, but like, so, and we're allowed to use option B or whatever and set our own progress stages, so it's allowable because it's there. And the big thing in all this, the clients have got no issue with it. It's actually just the lender. And so when they push back on that, and exactly what you said, I said, look, you have to, I'm not prepared to go to contract on this if we don't get the payments that we want. So yeah, you push back, and luckily the one we've had recently, it's all gone through, and we actually left it as it is. But the one that we had probably a big issue was probably 18 months earlier, and it was bridging finance involved. And from what I understand, there's only probably about 4 lenders across Australia that do bridging finance. And really, as the lender, there's nothing in it for them to actually, because it's pretty much pay them out, they sell their house, it all gets paid back, lenders that's out of it. But basically, yeah, we had to cut in, do a slab pour on the bottom garage to then do the top slab pour. And that's basically when the first stage was. And luckily the client was able to jump into their super to get some payments to us as deposits early on. But for the lender to expect us to do 4 or 5 months worth of work and not be paid. I said, we're bankrolling the whole thing. And I said, it's not going to happen. So, and we pushed back as hard as we can, but in the end I caved because we had nothing going on. So we needed the job to get underway. And then the client said, look, here's a deposit to get the job underway. And that sort of helped us get by. But the risk that puts on us as builders is huge. And I think, like say, presenting those, probably learnt out of that is presenting that draft contract earlier in the piece so that they can go to the lender, get it checked, and then if we need to adjust things. But if I would have had my time again, I said, look, it's not happening. You got to go find another lender and work out another way. But yeah.
It's crazy to think that the bank says yes to the overall amount, but then gets real finicky on, oh, you can't have that then, you can't have that then. It's, who's running this show? Like you've said yes to the lend. Why does it matter when the money comes out? As long as when it's done, you are obviously happy that the job is complete and we're not making a claim that the house isn't done. Yeah.
I had a great one. We had just a pure renovation. There was no base stage, and all our payment schedules are customised. We could have small scale project might have anywhere from 8 to 10. A bigger scale project might have, as I said, 18, like 15 to 18 kind of set out, and we'll do the same. We'll look for that. Anyway, we had this renovation. We thought it would be a great winter job, and it ended up being a great project. There was no actual base stage. We were literally using the existing subfloor, the same footprint, and it was actually the insurer this time, not the bank, come back and they said, nah, we're not approving the payment schedule. You haven't even got a base stage in there. They get the plans. And I said, who on earth is assessing this policy? And they've come back and said, oh, okay, yeah, we can see what you're talking about now. That's where we're at. But that goes back to the contracts as well, to understand where payment schedules are at. You've got method 2. I know with the HIA where method 2 payment, whether it's B or alternatives in different states. But yeah, that's knowing your numbers that we've spoken about big time. So I think just to understand what your cash flow is and what your overheads are and what's going to be coming ahead is huge.
Yeah, I think estimating, like obviously starting the project out by estimating it. I know when I first started, I'd never really had a system on how to estimate. It's not something that you really get taught. My old boss used to just do it with a pen and paper at his dining room table, and that's what I was portrayed on how to estimate.
Yeah.
But I think a lot more needs to happen in that early part to set you up well from an estimating point of view, and then, like you said, scheduling it out so you are working out your stage payments to cash flow your project as best as possible. There's just all different foundations to set it up.
Yeah, it's a big thing, right? Once you do all that and you know all that, and then you know your numbers as a business, then you also know where you can negotiate with the client as well, which also leads into progress payments. It's not necessarily just the right progress payment schedule. It's actually knowing your whole financial system for your company. Yeah,
and I think you touched on it with paying deposits for trades or ordering windows and all that type of stuff. To get a comment in an email that the builder is front loading the contract, that sort of a term, it's just we need to because we're not going to use our own money to go and buy your window. And I think that's really important for any potential clients that might be out there and listening, is that you got to have that discussion with your lender or your broker to say, we've chosen this builder because of the way they run the business and how they go about it, and we trust them. But the other thing is that the question that we got put to us, or the query, is that the bank or the lender is actually there to protect the client when you talk about whether the plans are overvalued and an overvaluation or front-loading contracts and all that sort of stuff, because of the risk of builders going bankrupt. I'm like, that is exactly why it's happening. And it's just, I don't quite understand why that can't be worked out a bit better.
Look, I buy into that a little bit, because, and this it comes back to the same thing we're talking about. Like, you can't just grab a custom job and slap a standard progress payment renter on it, progress payment schedule on it, because they're probably right. Like, they probably are paying too much for this point. So let's break it down into smaller amounts and rejig it how we need to, because it's a very real concern. This is something I bring up with my clients pre-contract sign. I say, do you know what homeowner's warranty is? Oh, no, I don't know what that is. Okay, well, that pays you if I go broke. I don't want to go broke. That's why we have this payment schedule, because I need cash flow. And the other, let's just say the worst happened and I did go broke. Well, you're not going to be out enough for the insurance that would cover you to actually can carry on. Like, if you were way paid in advance, that's a huge risk on you. And if it's also a big risk on me as well. Like, there's a lot of other people's money in our bank accounts. We need to manage and know what that number is. So there's certainly a balance in it, but yeah, for the banks just to take the hard line and be like, this is industry standard like that. The contracts, the HIA contract is a good one, but it is very old and they won't change it.
Yeah, guys, before we could keep going all day, before we start to wrap up, just I think if we get just from each of you guys, if you went back to your younger self, what would be one tip that you could tell yourself now that might help someone else in their start out?
Join some form of business coaching, whether it be APB, Future Builder, Live Life Build, ask around, because I look back and I'd say to people, I'd remortgage your house or take out a loan to be able to afford it, because I think once you get that support, it would just set you up for success in your business. There was nothing, it's not as, nowadays it's a lot more accessible. When I first started, it wasn't. Yeah, it would be that. Get some business coaching.
Yeah, echo that community. Like business coaching is good, as I said before. Like you there's a lot of great content in there. You can find it for free on the net if you want to dig hard enough. But it's the accountability and the community of guys like yourself who are in there. You make lifelong mates. You get to actually talk about the hard knocks and just have some support, because this kind of leads into the mental health side of things. It's very tough being a business owner, one, very lonely, and then you slap the building industry on top of that where there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, very difficult to manage. Yeah, just having that support and community would be number one. Yeah.
My future self, or my old self. I'd probably definitely echo the coaching side of things, but I go back even further to leaving school and that sort of phase too. And again, thinking of the apprentices now, that trying to teach them what I know now is probably trying to teach them how to run that business earlier. Even I think of when I was a subby years ago too. I didn't really, you just got rates and you just go out there and punch out the work, but didn't really understand what overhead costs were, didn't understand how much profit has to be on top and all this type of stuff. So I think is always have a sense to always learn as well, and not be afraid to ask the questions. Like I was probably afraid to put my bloody hand up at school, whereas now it's like there's no such thing as a stupid question, or actually ask other people who are doing it already. Like they've got the runs on the board, they are running things that way. So ask the questions and get involved. And there's a number of times where you can be involved in these groups, but if you don't take action on any of the stuff that you're learning, you're still going to be in exactly the same positions. Act on things and things will go that way or they'll go that way, but at least you're still moving forward. Yeah, have a crack. So.
Awesome. Good insights, fellas. Very lastly, quick little wrap up. Where can people find you if they want to find out more, follow your journey, or reach out to you as well?
Yeah, for us, jturnerconstructions.com.au, or via Instagram or Facebook, jturnerconstructions.
Yeah, zjbuilding.com.au. We're on Instagram at zjbuilding, Facebook, and I'm fairly active on LinkedIn as well, so you can see me on there.
Yep, very similar. So our websites, saxonybuilding.com.au. And yeah, we have Instagram as well at Saxony Building, Facebook. Are probably all the main ways to see what we're up to. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time coming in, guys. Really appreciate it, because I know this is a big chunk out of your day. Everybody's running very busy building companies as well. So, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, absolute pleasure having you in, guys. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Loved it.
Cheers.
All right, there you go, guys. We're going to wrap up this episode. Hope you all got some very valuable insights out of that. If you want to follow along more of the Build Insight journey, head over to Instagram, build.insite. Go over to the website. You can also link between the YouTube channel, extra podcasts, and whatever's going on with our socials as well. Appreciate you tuning in for the episode, and we'll catch you on the next one. Let's cue the disclaimer. I need to let you know that myself and the Build Insight team are in no way, shape or form qualified to give you personal or specific business advice. We strongly encourage you seek out the use of professionals for products or when you are making personal or business decisions. Everything discussed during the Build Insight podcast is our own and the guest opinion and personal experience, and is of a general nature only. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Catch you on the next one.